previous lecture. Whatever the different media, based on media, you can classify the multimedia section. The classification for the media. So we are completing this representation section in earlier video. For today's section, that presentation, available information presented effectively for that. So this presentation media, media multimedia quality or multimedia performance or multimedia that parameter is again depend on the whatever the kind of tools and devices that you seem to be utilized. And tools and devices or input output. That these input output devices or available tool, the connecting elements that seems to be fast, that seems to be effective, that seems to be precise, that seems to support high data rate, that fast data delivery, that switching and that activity, that sensitivity and that precision from those devices is expected to be at a high level. That is the normal expectation. So this is presentation. Again, whatever the devices that you are utilizing in case of that recording or in case of presentation, that seems to be easy to handle. So for these, it is mandatory that whatever the hardware that you are utilizing, whatever the software support you are selecting, that seems to be effective. That not only effective but inefficient way. So these tools and devices. These tools and devices again need somewhat connected that record from the processor, that memory to the hard disk, or from the hard disk toward the memory, that switching, DMA data, that DMA controller. That DMA controller seems to be fast. That seems to be support with some large storage that will be moving here and there. So presentation is this kind of media that seems to be important in case of multimedia. Another classified element in case of multimedia, in case of media, is the storage. This storage seems to be very important. Though you would like to present effectively, though you are recording effectively, all that seems to be okay. But the storage seems to be very much important. Not only storage, that means you can store, but how, at what speed you are catching the content. That read and write, after read and write command, that content from that particular hard disk or that available magnetic disk or from that CD-ROM, that seems to be immediately made available for your processor for further activity. So that read write, that data transfer here and there, to and fro data transfer, so that seems to be very much important. So storage, normally that environment that will be selected for the storage is magnetic tape. In older days there is a microfilm that is available. That another flavor is floppy disk. There can be other section, hard disk, CD-ROM, CD, DVD. With the latest development CD-ROM, that very recent one, that IRAM or that CRAM. Intelligent RAM. Intelligent RAM, what is this story? This intelligent RAM is the combination of your processing environment and with that storage environment that will be clubbed on the single chip. So that effectively and that high bandwidth field seems to be offered for the processor. So there is no traffic jam, there is an instant switching of data that seems to be possible. That without latency and with a high bandwidth, that seems to be resulted, and with a less energy. So whatever that handheld devices, those are seem to be mostly in case of that IRAM kind of memory storage that seems to be suggested. Based on the same, that computing RAM, IRAM, or you can go for a computing RAM. In case of computing RAM also, your processing element along with the storage that will be available on the single chip, single silicon chip. So that is the section that is available. That is the section that is available. So we have another section for the media is a transmission. So based on a transmission, based on that classification, this media section seems to be another section. So transmission media, so different carrier that is adapted for conveying or for carrying the information from one point toward the destination. It is different carrier those are available, like coaxial cable, fiber optic cable, that wireless media, radio waves, satellite communication. But though those are the carrier those are available, but whatever the coding scheme that you are utilizing for transferring your signal effectively toward the destination, that seems to be very much important. That Huckman coding, then Limpisiv coding, that seems to be the suggested in that case. There is a Bosch code, BCS coding that seems to be suggested in case of this transmission section. Other than that, media can be categorized, or based on media, your multimedia section can be classified as discrete and continuous. Media can be discrete and continuous. What is continuous? Continuous is like analog data or analog signal. Signal term is somewhat different than the data. You have to remember all this thing. And whatever we are talking currently, we talking with respect to digital device, digital system, computer system, that personal computer system. So discrete and continuous data. So for continuous data, that example is analog signal, that analog information, that video, those can be the categorized in case of this continuous section. In case of discrete section, then you can have text or you can have image, that can be the category for the multimedia. That multimedia categories can be interactive and non-interactive. Interactive and non-interactive. In case of audio, it is somewhat very much important that interactiveness seems to be maintained. But in case of video, if you are showing that video offline, streaming video that in some part, so it is no such a botheration seems to be observed. So it is an interactive. Audio seems to be supported by multimedia system, seems to be interactive. This can be non-interactive, so there is no problem with this kind of activity. Discrete multimedia, it can be text based or it can be image based. Text based information, that text based information like there is a XYZ, then PQR, then RYZ. So whatever you are showing, that can be non-interactive, but whatever the image you are showing, that seems to be interactive. So non-interactive, interactive. Multimedia can be categorized based on this section also. On the top of all this, so there are media classification based on a perception, based on a representation, based on the presentation, based on the storage, based on the transmission, based on the type, discrete or analog. So based on this, media can be classified. But on the top of this again, multimedia can be categorized in the form of domain. Different aspects for the multimedia is like based on domain that you can classify. So domain can be device-based media, device-based multimedia, application-based multimedia. You can have system-based multimedia. You can have one more, cross-domain multimedia. Cross-domain multimedia. Application-based, device-based, system-based, cross-domain multimedia. What is this application-based? So in case of application-based multimedia, it is totally under the control of software. That representation, interaction, that GUI, that how you feel, how you present, how you represent. So all these. So application-based multimedia. Device-based. So device is stuck to the device. That computing power, that storage power, then it's that data transfer here and there, that cache capacity, that recently there are the cache like i5, i7 in this case, whatever that cache level 1, level 2, level 3, those are available. So with these kind of incorporation that you are able to provide your presentation or your that multimedia delivery seems to be effective. So this is one of the sections. So device-based categorization. Multimedia can be categorized based on a system domain. That based on a system domain. System domain, the kind of section. Like based on multimedia data can be like continuous. It can be discrete. So it is a system domain. Multimedia is a system domain. Another section for cross domain is like how you catch the content and how you represent the content. So it is like interdisciplinary or it is somewhat cross-domain kind of activity. Application with a device with a system, with application. So based on all this. Apart from these, that in case of system, that you can add some more. That operating system is somewhat very important. Database is somewhat very important. Then communication environment seems to be very important. Operating system must support appropriate process opening, threading, interrupt handling. That interrupt handling must be very fast. Device driver handling seems to be very effective. So then and then your operating system will be able to give you fast performance based on event and that trigger whatever that will be generated during the activity. Database, that database seems to be mostly in case of that multimedia kind of application. We are not talking for a small video or small audio, but we are talking for some high-end application. So database seems to be generated in case of multimedia environment of very huge volume. So voluminary data that seems to be generated in case of these. So So that's why computational power expected to be very high, very high. It not seem to be very much small. It seems to be up to threshold and be above the threshold that computing power is expected. How much computing power is expected? That threshold that I explain you. But before that, communication protocol, communication environment, communication protocol, communication environment seems to be very much important in case of multimedia delivery or in case of multimedia communication. So processing for cross-domain application software, that switching software activity, all this. So based on this, that you can have different different characteristics for multimedia. Desirable characteristic that is normally expected in case of multimedia environment is that desirable characteristic. I am talking for desirable characteristic from all that explanation that from the first and second lecture. Desirable characteristic. So desirable characteristics of multimedia is that the kind of processing environment, its capability to process, capability to store, capability to generate, capability to manipulate, capability to render in the available information. And this is all possible only with high processing power if your computing system support high processing power. High processing power for what? Very large volume that you would like to process. Real-time video delivery, that real-time video that you would like to process. That for these software support for real-time activities seems to be very much important. Whatever the application that you are selecting, that seems to be very much important in case of this kind of activity, and that the kind of file format that you are selecting. So video, the kind of video format that you are selecting. Apart from this, whatever the computational power that is expected in case of this, under this desirable characteristic, computational power seems to be required very high in case of digital video only, not in audio. So very high expectation in case of digital video, not in audio. And based on this, that minimum requirement for the computer system is that from the literature is that in 1990 that first multimedia processing that seemed to be initiated in 1990 with some minimum computational. In 1994 the second level is available. In 1996 the level is available, and that 1996 level of that multimedia processing that computing element that seems to be explored toward the market, and that 1996 literature present that whatever the system must support 75 megahertz speed, Pentium category or that somewhat extended version, RAM with 8 MB RAM, CD-ROM, that video processing, that pixel 352 by 250 pixel, and 30 frames per second. That is the processing that expected in case of multimedia computational power with a level 3. So level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 3 is the expansion of level 2, which contains CD-ROM and sound processing. So this level 3 seems to be very much mature as compared to this. And as you are knowing that we are in the era of 2020. So all these sections seem to be very small, and we are handling the normal device that gives you some better power than this one. So you can easily